In a democracy, citizens need to be informed. Informed about policies, issues, homelessness, law enforcement, and social services. In order for people to make good decisions that affect their lives, they need to be informed. Conversations with Erroll Parker. For the last several years, Darick Simpson has been the Executive Director of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership, an anti-poverty agency in this town. And he has lifted this organization out of the doldrums several years ago to a very respected and effective organization in the city. He is transitioning from this position as Executive Director of Long Beach CAP, and he is going to a more challenging position as the Executive Director of the Miller Foundation. Welcome to the program, Darick.
Thank you, Erroll, for having me.
Now, this is going to be quite a challenge, but before we talk about the Miller Foundation, you came to this organization, the Long Beach CAP, several years ago, and the organization was foundering. You know, it was almost closing its doors, and the board of directors was looking for a person that could lead the organization in this anti-poverty fight, and they selected you. Tell us a little bit about that era and what you feel like you've accomplished in the several years you've been as the head of this organization.
Yeah, well, it's been a journey of love, a labor of love as well. When I came to the agency, I didn't even know what community action was. My predecessor was on various committees in the community, but I really didn't know what he did, you know, in terms of an agency. There were leaders in this community, you being one of them, that was in a search once that person left for an executive director. I was approached by several people to say, you know what, you're doing this over at Long Beach City College. I was the interim director of the Small Business Development Center at that time. But this is a position that we think you're well suited for, you should apply. And once because I trusted those people, one of which was Mr. Bill Barnes, who I have great respect for as well as you, when he told me that, I said, okay, and I did apply, and my salary was half of what I moved to California for, you know, years before that. But I believed in the mission. I believed in the potential of the organization, and that's what inspired me to come on board. At that time, the agency was a $1.3 million budget and 24 staff and a marginal reputation at best, both locally, and once I came on board, I found out nationally that the reputation of this agency preceded me, and it wasn't good. So I had that to overcome. But there again, I believe that playing to my strengths as a leader, playing to the strengths of the organization and its potential, that I could create programs and initiatives that would help us to do something great in this community.
Well, we want to talk about that in a moment, but why a transition at this time in your life? I mean, you should be near almost retirement. You got several more years for that, but people make transitions for reasons. Why from an anti-poverty agency to something very similar but more challenging in dealing with children?
Like you, I'm a man of faith, right? I grew up black and Catholic in the South, which is an anomaly. But to the point, in August of 2019, the first week or so of August, I was sitting and I just had this feeling that, you know, as I was sitting quietly thinking about life and my future, that there was that next great thing that I was to do. I wasn't sure what the it was. I'm a writer creatively, as you know. I wasn't sure if it was writing another book, if it was writing that great song that I aspire to write someday, the lyrics for. I didn't know if it was in the sense of doing something here at Long Beach Community Action Partnership. I knew it was that something. Once I became open to the possibilities, all of a sudden 3 national opportunities were presented to me. And I kept turning away from them because I wasn't sure if that was what I was supposed to consider. One of which was the Miller Foundation and the president's position there. And so once I looked into the Miller Foundation and saw that that mission was to fund agencies that help children that are in low-income communities, I thought, wow, I've been doing this most of my career, either as a job or as a volunteer. What an amazing opportunity to now serve a greater good in the city that I love and not have to leave for one of those other opportunities and just do it in a different way. At my age, at 62 years old, to leave something that I've built over
Yeah.
13 years, that was a risk, and it is a risk. But I believe in me, and I believe in the possibilities, and I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Tell us what the Miller Foundation, and for some people this is going to be just an esoteric question, but tell us what the Miller Foundation hangs its hat on. What is it trying to do, and what it has done in this town?
Sure. Well, most people might know of the Miller Children's Hospital, which is a
Yes.
very prominent hospital in the LA region. So Erroll and Lorraine Miller are the family that have their name on that hospital, but they also have a family foundation. And as I said earlier, one of the key mission is to serve those families. That health is holistic. Health isn't just about physical health, it's about mental health. It's about the space that you live in being healthy in terms of your community. And so it's addressing the holistic health of the child and of the community. And to me, for instance, they funded upwards of, let's say, 35 nonprofits last year. Now, instead of working with one nonprofit as the executive director, I get to be president of a foundation that's going to fund upwards of 35 nonprofits serving a similar mission. And to me, that's the greater good. And in my vision, I am hopeful that not only can I inspire and facilitate collaborations amongst the nonprofits to work closer together, but also amongst the funders to see how we can better strategically work together to leverage limited resources in this community to serve a great need.
That's an art of doing that, of getting the people at the table to collaborate, because people's natural inclination, as you know, Darick, is I want to go at this alone, I'm applying for this grant alone,
Right.
and I'm going to be in competition with other people. So
Right.
explain to us what's the art of collaboration and how can you facilitate that?
Well, it remains to be seen, but I've been successful nationally. And I think it's basically acknowledging the strengths of everyone at the table, because everyone brings something different. It's like a recipe. I grew up on gumbo in the South. And the thing about good seafood gumbo is that you really don't know what's in there, but you just know when you take the first sip, it's good, right? And so everyone in this community as an individual, no matter how poor you are or rich you are blessed with something inherently that this world needs to realize.
Wow.
And so how can we lift that up, right? Organizationally speaking, to serve a common focus, right? And that's what I'm hopeful to do, is to say that, you know, leave egos and logos outside the door. We're in here to make change for a greater good. Now, how can we do that? No matter what your title might have been, at this table, all ideas are equal if we're trying to accomplish the same goal.
Now, let's zoom back a little bit with the Long Beach Community Action Partnership and
Sure.
your experiences there. What do you feel like is the most accomplished thing you did with this agency?
Wow. To lift it up to a point of service where we paid $4.3 million in utility bills in 2018
Now
from
that's
San
phenomenal.
Pedro to Azusa. We prepared over 800 tax returns and brought back $1.2 million into this community and saved about $160,000 in fees. So what we're doing is literally what our mantra is. We're helping people and changing lives. I talked to a young man about 2 weeks ago who he grew up over on the west side of Long Beach. His brother was in our program that we took to the White House, the LAMP program, took 11 young men of color, took 12, but only 11 could get in because his brother had already been involved with gangs and the CIA pulled him because of his record already.
Wow.
Meanwhile, this young man I met with was in 7th grade, let's say, but he was in an after-school program we had created at Century Villages. Fast forward, this young man graduated from a major university as a safety and got a call up to the Colts, to the Baltimore, Indianapolis Colts. When I went to his reception, he's like, saw him outside, he's like, hey, Mr. Simpson, I'm so happy you came. He's like, I just want you to know how much I want to thank you because you saved my life. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, because you guys created that program, instead of me going with my brother, my older brother, the gangs, the drugs, the other things that he was into, I came to that safe place to do my homework. Your staff cared about us, and I kept my focus on sports.
Now, I know that had to make you feel really good for that
Erroll,
testimony.
They talk about dropping the mic. I could have ended my career right there.
Right there.
you know, because that was a life that I could see change. Now, I know that there are other stories. You know, we have Skylar, who's now the music education director at the Grammy Museum, right? Started out here in Lamp.
I remember that.
You know, we've got other kids and other stories, but the truth of the matter is there's a lot more that don't have such a happy ending, right? And so the grind never stops. You know, you got to keep working at it. You got to give everybody your all, not knowing where it will fall, but you got to still give, right? And that's important.
Now, let's zoom back a little bit again. You were born in Alabama, and I want to know, because even though we've been friends for a long time, I don't know what led you to come to Long Beach. But first of all, let's talk about growing up in Alabama during the civil rights era. And you probably saw a lot of overt racism. And then, how did you get here to Long Beach? First, let's talk about Alabama.
Yeah, growing up in Alabama, I had a great childhood. I had a family that loved me, an extended family that loved me. My dad was an only child, but my mom had 8 brothers and sisters total. And as I said earlier, I grew up black and Catholic. All my neighborhood was Protestant, but I was the kid that they said, oh, you got to go to school and kneel down, stand up. And they gave me a hard time until I got in the 8th grade and I was a baller, so playing basketball.
And you're a big guy, so you get to get intimidated.
then all of a sudden that changed. But the point of the matter was that I had a great family. Now, I remember vividly that my friend's house got bombed because his dad was an attorney. Firebomb. They blew up the front part of their home. That's when I got exposure to how serious the racism was. This was in the 60s. Dr. King had been killed. My parents never talked about racism. They talked about roles, but they never talked about racism. I remember George Wallace saying segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. And I remember Bear Bryant, and he talked about football, and I said, I don't want to go to that school. They don't want me. I want to go to Notre Dame, but because I was going to Catholic schools and I was a Catholic All-American. But fast forward, once I got into college and got injured playing ball, I decided.
Where did you go to college at?
I went to Baylor University at one of the Southwest Conference. They took me to a community college. I didn't like it. My second year, I went to Kentucky State University, became all-conference academic specialist there, and my on the dean's list, and got hurt again. I had a history of concussions. And then I said, I'm going back to my home state, and ironically, the best school to go to was Alabama. So I ended up back there, but as a child, I was told I could never come there.
Okay.
And that always stuck in my head, right?
But that motivated you, though.
That motivated me. And in the 7th grade was the first time I went to school and really was around anyone who wasn't black. And when I went to that school, I had the audacity to invite a young lady who was not African American to the county fair, because that's what everybody did at the school.
And I bet he said, are you crazy, guy? What are you doing?
They called me to the principal's office and said, Mr. Simpson, we don't do that here. I'm like, what? Everybody else is doing it? Why not me? They're like, yeah, but you won't do that.
Okay.
So I was like, so that was my first in your face, you're black.
That's right.
To this day, Erroll, in Alabama, the state constitution says it's illegal for a black child and a white child to go to school together. That's what the Alabama state constitution says, and that breaks my heart. I wrote a poem called I'm Praying for You, Alabama, about that, because I started writing poetry as an athlete in college. Never shared it, because back then you had to be, walking in the locker room talking about, no. But I kept those notebooks, and so my note to youth is, don't let other people squash your dream.
That's right.
If you got that fire in your heart, man, and you got that vision in your mind, it's the people who are closest to you as family and friends that can often deter you because you trust them. You think, wow, that's my brother, that's my friend, that's my homie, they know, so maybe I shouldn't aspire to do this. When the fact is, that's the seed that God planted in you. You got to nurture it and let it grow.
How did you get to Long Beach?
A woman.
What else, huh?
Yeah, I was married at the time. I went to school. When I graduated from Alabama, within 2 weeks, I was working for a CBS affiliate. And I was one of the best at it. But I didn't realize out here you had to be union. And so when I moved here,
what kind of work did you do?
I was studio crew chief. I was camera. I started directing 6 and 10 News.
So no wonder we have Patnet now because
there you go. That was, again, playing to your strengths. But I was married at the time, and she had gotten a gig here. And I thought, wow, we had twins that were 2 years old, my son Austin and daughter Lauren, both of which are Alabama alumni now. And I moved out here, but I didn't get into TV. I got into, my degree said communications, so I started working at Security Pacific Bank in telecommunications. And my career just took different paths. I always wanted to be a general manager of a TV station. But what I didn't realize was that there were no African Americans to ever hold that position. Fast forward now, I created
that's amazing.
A channel here in Long Beach.
And I went through the same thing, but
Yeah.
okay, if I can't do that, I'm going to create my own. That's enterprising, So you always wanted to do what you're doing.
Right.
You started patenting here.
Right.
I mean, usually on my show, I don't give these much accolades. I'm hitting people to the wall and say, how did you make that policy state?
Right.
But Darick Simpson has done a great job in this city, and he's going to continue to do that. But Darick, you're living out a dream.
Yeah, I am.
And now you're going to transition to the Miller Foundation. Share us your vision of what you're going to bring to that foundation. This old foundation has been here for many, many years.
Yeah. I'm excited, Erroll, because the board is excited to have me. I've been overwhelmed by just the way this community has embraced me at every level, knowing they're sad, knowing that I'm leaving Long Beach CAP, those who know me as Darick with Long Beach Community Action Partnership. But my reputation transcends this agency nationally, and I'm blessed to be in that position. So I'm looking forward to bringing my leadership, my perspectives there to say that knowing what I know on the side of the equation where I've asked for grants from the Miller Foundation and other foundations, I can take that knowledge and that institutional wisdom to there to say, okay, from the perspective of being the one who allocates grants, I know what to look for. I know the question is not asked or the answer is not given. I know how to go further as a team of collaboration between organizations, or maybe even collaborations between funders, as you and I were talking earlier, to say, listen, if we're all funding the same agency, how might we do that smarter?
I tell you, now that is a tough one right there. I mean, some people go to school to mediate that type of thing. When you got the egos and you got the self-interest, but then you have the rampant poverty that not only is in this city, it's not only say rampant, but this distinct poverty in the city and around the country. It stifles me sometimes, Darick, to say, the employment picture is really good, and I'm driving down, I'm seeing in every metropolitan city we have homelessness.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about, as the president, it's not the CEO, I mean, not the executive director, but the president of the Miller Foundation, to impact the issues that children have in this country, in this city? What are you going to do?
Well, it's going to be more so what can I be a part of making happen with those organizations that we fund. So as opposed to being an agency now of providing direct services such as here at Long Beach CAP, I'm a part of a foundation now that funds those types of agencies. So I hope it's being a part of a paradigm shift in how services may be delivered, at least in the sphere of influence that I have at that foundation. So let's say if the foundation has funded 35 or so organizations last year, maybe we can create a culture at that foundation where collaboration is a part of the request for a grant. That among the things that you want to do directly, how might collaboration to leverage what we're doing with you be a part of your strategy as well, so that those funds can go further? Because as I mentioned earlier in our conversations, sometimes giving an organization the funds that they ask for is not the best thing to do.
Why do you say that?
Because here at Long Beach CAP, I'll speak for that, you get excited, you get the grant, the kids come, it's a great program, and all of a sudden the money's gone, but the need isn't gone.
That's right.
And the kids keep coming back. It's like a water well that went dry. You're still thirsty. You still need that knowledge. You still need those arms around you. You still need that safe place. None of that disappears, but the money disappeared. And so now you've lifted the hopes. It's like that saying, once they've been to the city, they won't go back to the farm.
That's right.
Once you've had steak, you don't want to eat Spam again. You want to keep eating steak or something close to it, right? And I realize that this is bigger than any one agency. It's bigger than any one city to solve. It's a national issue.
That's right.
But it's got to start somewhere. So now why not with us?
You've been in this town for 30 years at least. Why do you love this town? And I know you love this town. You and I were talking about that.
I do.
You know, as I was telling you before, sometimes on Fridays I just drive around this town. It's so beautiful. It's not as big as other cities. It's not a small town. But what do you love about the city of Long Beach, which you have served for 30 years?
Yeah, when I moved here, I moved to Long Beach. And the first thing that struck me is I'm from a port city. Mobile, Alabama is on the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
So it reminded me of home in that regard. It was a port city. It also it's a big enough city to be internationally respected, but small enough that it has personality. And you can go from neighborhood to neighborhood to realize the different personalities. I love the diversity of the city. You know, both socioeconomic diversity as well as ethnic diversity, that you can live as wealthy as you want to live, but you can also live in a space where you feel comfortable with just life being what you want life to be. I think the potential to serve is great here because you have such great organizations, you have such great leadership at all levels, people like you who lead your way, you know, to people who lead, you know, corporately and otherwise. And I think the potential to make a difference here, because we're small enough to work together, it can be profound on a national level because we've demonstrated already that it can be done because they're doing it in Long Beach.
In the few minutes that we have left, I know this will be an opportunity for you to say goodbye to the Long Beach Community Action Partnership, and this is something that'll go down in history. You can always play it and record. You know, I don't want you to start tearing up here, but you've served a lot of people in this on that staff and this board of directors. Now's an opportunity to look in that camera and say goodbye and thank you for serving. But tell us. How do you feel about leaving this organization? Talk to the board, talk to the staff, talk to the people that you've served.
You didn't tell me this question was coming. Okay, that was the setup. Wow, I mean, you were my first board chair here, Erroll. Long Beach CAP is a part of me, and I'm a part of it, and I always will be. So no matter where I go, this is part of my legacy. I'm proud of the fact that we were able to serve. I'm proud of the team. People say, well, you were all over the nation, but I couldn't have been all over the nation doing what I did if I didn't have a strong team. To know that some of the people that have worked under my leadership have gone on to bigger and better things in life, to know that some of the people that we've served here have a better quality of life. There's no job that you can have, in my opinion, that can be more important than helping someone realize their best potential in this world. And we've been a part of that, both in those that we serve, both in those that I've served for, such as this board, who's been amazing as it's transitioned, and this team. So I'm proud of the people, not the money, not the growth of the budget from 1 million to 10 million, from 24 staff to upwards of 80 staff, all of which are admirable accomplishments. But the fact that I helped change a life, that I helped a better quality of life, that's priceless. I think my mom and my dad would be proud, and that's what it's all about. Absolutely. If my mama won't want it, I don't want to be a part of it.
Credibility is what this man has been to this town. And I've been around this town a long time, Darick, and I haven't heard a negative thing about you. You do what you say you're going to do, and now that you're going to be, this man is going to be in a very challenging position, and he'll need all the support he can, because poverty is deep in a town. When a kid can't actualize his future and loses hope, he can look to an agency that you have directed, and now a new agency, Children Who Are Yet Born, and the collaboration that you're going to try to institute, that you've learned here, is going to be something to see. I congratulate you on what you've done, and
thank you. And
I congratulate you in advance of what you're going to do with the Miller Foundation.
I appreciate it.
It is CAP's loss, but Miller's gain. Thank you for coming to our conversation with Erroll Parker. We've just interviewed Darick Simpson, who is making a career transition, and I think that he's going to do a wonderful job. We have some deep challenges, Darick, and I think you're up for the challenge. Congratulations again. Thank you.
With leaders like you, we can make it happen, though. I'm excited.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on Conversations with Erroll Parker, and we'll see you another time. In a democracy, citizens need to be informed about policies, issues, homelessness, law enforcement, and social services. In order for people to make good decisions that affect their lives, they need to be informed. Conversations with Erroll Parker.